everybody, I'm Jammer, and today let's talk about another game that a lot of people have been speculating and talking about coming at this year's E3, being Prime Rib 4. I mean, Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4. So we've heard for a long time that we know Retro Studios, they're working on a new project since Tropical Freeze, but we've never heard any word about what it could be. There's been rumors saying it could be a new Metroid, it could be a brand new IP, it could be something else entirely, maybe another entry in the Donkey Kong Country series, and a lot of us are not sure what's going to happen, but many people, I swear, every E3, before every E3, there's always clamoring for some sort of Metroid title. Every single freaking E3, and it never happens, in exception to obviously the ones that does happen. I mean, so you can't go wrong, I guess. But more often than not, it's always a clamoring. You always hear like, oh, they're gonna announce a new Metroid title, please, new Metroid title, and it never happens. So that's the thing. I am not entirely sure about Metroid Prime 4. I really don't know. It could happen for Nintendo. Like, it could come out. Like, that could be what Retro's working on. But I don't know if I'm entirely sure there, because I mean, it's not like Nintendo's deaf. They definitely hear the fans clamoring for a new Metroid game, specifically a new Prime game and stuff like that. And obviously, they saw the backlash to Federation Force, which was an okay game, but because it was using the Prime moniker, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this game's trash because it's not a true Metroid Prime game. Which, fine, whatever. That's a topic for another day, I guess. But the whole point of that being is, I don't think that's gonna hinder Samus's chances. I don't think they're gonna, like, you know, they tested the water at Federation Force and they're like, oh, well, no one likes Metroid. I think they're a little bit smarter than that. They realize that fans just didn't like the game as it was presented, rather than, oh, we just don't like Metroid. So I think the thought of Nintendo writing Metroid completely off the table is, I don't think that's a thing. But at the same time, I mean, we haven't seen a proper Metroid entry since 2011 with Other M. I believe even before that, what was Corruption? 8 or 9? 08 or 9? I think it was 08. So still, it's been almost 10 years since Corruption. A little bit less than that since Other M. It's been a long time we've been waiting for a new game. A lot of Metroid fans have been really aching for a new game in that franchise. But the thing is, that's how the series operates, though. It really is. I mean, look at the Metroid, Super Metroid, and the stuff on the Game Boys, you know, and then you heard nothing from Samus until, I mean, her next appearance was in, like, Melee, and people went up, like, berserk over the fact that at least she was remembered, she was back in any fashion, and then, obviously, Metroid Prime came soon to follow, but, so, it's a trend that this series has, where it has a few games clumped in a few years, and then it just disappears entirely. Then it came back, you know, with Metroid Prime. Had a few games there, had the trilogy, then got to Other M, then disappeared, and we still haven't seen it since. In exception, of course, Federation Force. One thing that comes to question is Metroid still marketable to fans? And, in a large scale, anyways. And I think it can be. And especially with what the avenue they've been taking with a lot of their big franchises on the Nintendo Switch, such as Breath of the Wild, and from what it looks like anyways from Mario Odyssey, they're really switching up the formula and really making this like a brand new staple in the franchise, but totally innovating and new ideas, like the open worldness of Breath of the Wild, and really going and the same thing of going back to the roots of the originals. How the Mario, Odyssey seems to be going back to the 64 type like structure, you know. And obviously I don't know information about it just yet, so I can't say stuff for sure. But from what it looks like, anyways, it's going to be returning to formula, returning to basics, but also expanding upon that in brand new ways, such as the giant open-ish world levels, you know. So I could see something very similar with a Metroid Prime 4, that I mean, we've had the trilogy so far, and I personally think they're all outstanding titles, and I can't recommend the trilogy enough on Wii U. Like, it's $19, 20 plus with tax or whatever, but for 3 of the best games of all time, like 3 fantastic games. Maybe Corruption is a little bit weaker than the other 2, but it's first one and second one are so strong, like, it's fantastic. You have to buy, it's a must-have. If you don't have it, buy it immediately, straight up. The controls are a little wonky for people who aren't a fan of the pointer controls. I think it works really well for it. I don't know, I go back and forth with liking the game controls over the Wii ones, but, I mean, again, that's just talking about another thing here. I mean, I guess the point about that is, for Nintendo Switch, would a Metroid Prime 4 use the motion controls that were introduced in Corruption and Trilogy, maybe tilting the Joy-Con using makeshift pointer, using the gyroscope, kind of like a Skyward Sword or even how I think World of Goo does it as well. They could do something like that. Or do you think they're going to be maybe go the route of how it was controlled on the 3DS for Federation Force and like the GameCube titles of Echoes and the original Metroid Prime, where it's more like button-based with the triggers and stuff? And I think it's going to go more button ribbed this time. I don't know. I keep going back, like I said, I keep going back and forth whether I think motion controls with the button are better. That just personal bias because I play the button first. A lot of people who play motion and go to button, they hate it. And the button controls are outdated, I will admit. Like the older ones anyways. But I don't know, they can still work. And I think the reason they might go that route, if a Metroid Prime 4 does come to Nintendo Switch, is for the fact that the two Joy-Cons. Then you can play a split-screen multiplayer battle mode or whatever and have two players available immediately, rather than only one person having a Joy-Con and then using that. So, I mean, I guess that you do one Joy-Con and you point, and no, that makes no sense. You can't point and move in the same motion. That's not right. You'd have to use both, you know, and then that kind of prohibits the fact of being able to use multiplayer. I mean, granted, multiplayer has never been like a big focus of Metroid Prime. I mean, I think Echoes is the only one who has it. But I mean, for Hunters, for example, it's a fantastic multiplayer experience. I didn't really like the single player at all, but multiplayer, I had a blast in that game. So many great memories, so much fun there. And I think that'd be a great thing for them to go back to and have that sort of multiplayer experience. And, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I mean, granted, this game isn't going to be focusing on multiplayer anyways, so they could go the route of the motion controls with the Joy-Con and such, but, I could still see them going button controls for a Metroid Prime 4. I think Metroid title is coming. Eventually, anyways. I mean, it's not like, oh, like 10 years from now, yeah, we finally got one, I called it, guys! No, I mean, I think we're going to be getting one at least within a year, actually, to be truly honest. The reason I say this is because a little while back, there was an interview with Reggie. He was talking, maybe IGN or something like that. I can't remember who was interviewing him. Regardless, they asked the question, a question that more than like wasn't going to get an answer anyway, so they were expecting a coy response. But it was very interesting what his answer was. So the answer was, such as titles like Metroid 3 or older franchises that haven't gotten a lot of attention, like Metroid, do you plan on bringing these titles to Nintendo Switch, or something along the lines of that? And now Reggie answered, saying that, the typical PR speak, like we're always trying to offer innovative and brand new experiences for Nintendo Switch. Of course, we want to bring all our biggest franchises onto the console. That's kind of where the whole Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, for example, were tied in, and people would think, oh yeah, of course they're going to be on the Nintendo Switch, because they're going to be on there eventually. It's just a matter of when, But the interesting part was the last sentence, and again, still paraphrasing, I don't have the full quote in front of me, but he mentioned something along the lines of, ask me this question a year from now, and we'll see where we are. And the question specifically said, Mother 3, translation for the West, and a Metroid title. Now, that's pretty insane that that's not just something you just kind of say and you could brush off. Like, he basically said that Mother 3 and a Metroid title in some form will be on the Nintendo Switch. Because he said, ask me within a year. Like, ask me again in a year, the same question, and we'll see where we are. Like, potentially this could mean that the year later it asks, like, oh, these two titles are now coming up. So this doesn't necessarily confirm these games are coming out this year. I can honestly see it happening, though. But it could mean that they are coming, like, they will be announced to be coming or have already came by the time a year from that interview, which was just a few months ago, this spring, actually. So, basically, the point I'm trying to make here is Nintendo is aware of these two games, Mother 3, and of course, a Metroid Prime 4, or just Metroid in general. And they acknowledge that something is going to be coming of that very soon. Now, does this mean a Federation Force 2 sequel on the 3DS, something garbage that we don't care about? Does this mean a Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch or something like that? Or does this mean a brand new 2D side-scroller Metroid? Maybe 2.5D or something like that. The thing is, I'm not sure. Like, I'm really not sure. We haven't had a true 2D Metroid since Fusion? I think it was Zero Mission Fusion. Was there anything else in between there? I think that's... correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the last 2D title. And that was forever ago. That was back on the Game Boy Advance. Was there one on the DS? No, there wasn't. There wasn't one on the DS. It was just Prime Hunters. So yeah, we haven't seen 2D Metroid in a long, long time. Granted, a lot of fans, though, have been clamoring for a Prime 4 over a 2D Metroid. I mean, granted, you still hear the cries for 2D Metroid, but at least from the circles I usually hear a call for Prime over 2D Metroid. And for me, anyways, I'd love to see both. That would be fantastic. If, like, I would be just mind blown if at this year's E3 they announced Metroid Prime 4. I just spit everywhere. If they announced Metroid Prime 4 for Nintendo Switch, and they announced a brand new 2.5D Metroid title on the 3DS, because they are continuing the support there, and that maybe it's a continuation of the story after Fusion, or perhaps some brand new story entirely. And then these two games will they'll have separate release dates, but maybe they even tie in together or something like that. Like perhaps the 3DS title has some interlacting characters with the Prime title, and they kind of work together in that fashion. And maybe they have some cross-save functionality, kind of like how in Fusion you could cross-save with Metroid Prime, and you can get the costume in that game and stuff like that. And granted, that's a very minimal experience thing there, but I can see something similar there. Like that is, however, I need to say this now. That is like a pie in the sky, like best day ever, like, you know, there's no way. I really don't think that's realistic. I think that would be amazing, but I don't think that's the route Nintendo's gonna go. Especially, like I talked about in my Smash Brothers video, they have a lot going on this year for Nintendo Switch. We already know the Mario Rabbids RPG is coming out this August, so we have a game slotted for, you know, the end of the summer. So we got Splatoon July, ARMS June, and then, or excuse me, let me start over. ARMS June, Splatoon July, Raving Rabbids August. So really you'll have September, October, because November is going to be Mario Odyssey. December, supposedly, Xenoblade X. So really all we have is September, October. One of which is going to be Hyrule Warriors. No. Fire Emblem Warriors, there it is. I was so confused with the title. That's probably going to be October, more than likely, and that's 120% going to be at this year's E3. We've already been getting a lot of screenshots on the game lately anyways, so... Anyways, the point being, there's only one really slot left for Nintendo Switch. Obviously, they can release 2 in a month, but from how they've been doing it anyways, that's what it looks like they've been doing. Or they could even skip an entire month, so then that's really the rest of our launch title for our rest of our lineup for the rest of this year. So more than likely it could be in the following year, or they could slot in a different game there, potentially a Metroid, or more than likely what it might be is like the Pikmin or an Animal Crossing or something like that, which I'm going to talk about later anyways. So that's the thing. If it's going to be as far out as it is, like this potential Metroid title, would it be smarter to save this for a Direct? So I think, honestly, we're not going to see a Metroid Prime 4 or anything Metroid at E3 2017. If we are, I'm happy to be wrong. Totally jammed. I'm excited if I'm going to be wrong. But realistically, even if we are showing it at E3, I still don't think it's going to come out this year. I think it's going to be a 2018 title. So perhaps it is smarter in Nintendo's best interest to maybe save that information for a later date. I mean, obviously, Metroid's going to be hyped no matter what. But they have a lot already going on here, and only so many months left of this year to fill in all the games they're going to want to show off at this year's E3. Because that's the obviously, they should talk long-term, but they have a lot of short-term stuff they really want to focus on to get people on the bandwagon immediately for the Nintendo Switch. Wow, this video's gone on a little bit longer than I expected. I guess quickly before I finish off, some things I did want to talk about first is, well, for one, Retro's project, whatever they're working on, whether it be Metroid or Donkey Kong, there's, like I said, potential we will see it at E3, but I'm not entirely certain because I don't think it's going to be releasing within this year. Again, like I said, they could be setting up for later, like next year and stuff like that, and talking about stuff. But they've been playing stuff pretty close to the chest lately, and like announcing stuff really like few months, to 6 months even. You know, like they haven't been. I think the most far out release so far was the Mario Odyssey, and I guess Xenoblade for that matter. At the presentation, I guess. Like all the other Switch titles have been like very soon to release, especially Mario Rabbids, you know, which is the surprise announcement. Also, for what I would like to see in a Metroid Prime 4. Now, I wish I had talked about this sooner, but I got sidetracked with other stuff, you know. So, I really, like I said, I want them to go back to the basics of Metroid Prime, the original Metroid Prime. That is my favorite of the series, of the franchise. 2 is really good, too. I love the gimmick with Light World and Dark World, but I still think the original is a little bit better because it just feels more, I don't know, organic. The storytelling, or I guess how you traverse the levels, because you could see, it was kind of obvious to see some of the structure in Echoes, where you got a few keys, open the temple, fight the boss, move to the next area, you know. While in Metroid Prime, it never really felt like you're in one area, you beat the area, you go to the next area. It felt like it all merged together into one cohesive experience. And that's something I'd love to see in Metroid Prime 4. I guess the experimentation with like the ship mechanics and Echoes was okay, but I think, or not Echoes, in Corruption, but I think sticking to one world was a little bit better. And I think they should do something similar again here. They could do traveling world to world, but I don't know. I want them to go back to basics and what made the original Prime so great and expand upon that. The other titles, like I said, they're still fantastic games, but a lot of people, and myself included, hold the first one in such high esteem. I think something along that route would be, I don't know, preferable. And of course, a lot of people speculate, I mean, Stylix will be a returning villain or character because of the little after credits or the 100% completion in Corruption where you see his ship. More than likely, that will be the case again. Somehow, I bet you Dark Samus will come back because she always had the... I mean, granted, that was the story arc of Dark Samus, the trilogy, so it could be some brand new force or threat, or she could return. Who knows, really? I might do another video to talk more about, like, things I would like to see in the game. I mean, especially if it's announced, then I'll just do a whole gush on that. But one other thing that I had a great idea about is, beam combinations. So, like in, what's it, Super Metroid, for example, and I believe they do it in other titles, too, where, you can actually go in your equipment list and toggle between your different weapon types and select 2 at a time to combine them. Like, you can use your ice missiles, or you can use your the wave beam or the plasma, and like combine them together to do different attributes. I think it'd be really interesting to do in a Prime game. Like, they kind of experimented a little bit with Corruption, where like, but it was like each upgrade you got increased your ability, like your standard ability. So your power shot increased to plasma shot, which increased to more plasma shot, I guess, or it was like lava plasma, I don't know. So they experimented that, and it was okay for that. But I do like that idea of the beam combination stuff and like basically the strategy of like getting the perfect setup for what your enemy you're trying to tackle. But at the same, I mean, that would actually remix a lot. So maybe that is the route they should go down. But at the same time, I kind of want them to go back to the basic formula where you got the 4 typical beams: power, wave, ice, and a plasma, or even just different ones for that matter. And just like kind of go back to the original formula of what made Prime great. Grant, I don't know which one I like better. Like, I think the new idea is gonna be like fresh and fun, you know, but I'm also, I guess I'm maybe just nostalgic for the original 4 beam combos. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think if we're going to be seeing a Metroid Prime 4 anytime soon, for that matter? At this year's E3, later down the road, 2018, what are your ideas for the game itself? Or do you think we might see a Metroid 2.5D title? Especially with that interview with Reggie saying that we're going to be, you know, like, ask me again in a year. So we're definitely going to hear something about Metroid within a year. Whether it comes out or we actually get it gets a release date past that interview, I'm not entirely certain. But yeah, definitely let me know in the comments. Give this video a huge, awesome like, and if you haven't already, subscribe for tons on, well, Metroid Prime, whenever that comes out, Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo Switch, and E3 2017 coverage. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!